Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Attack the Baseline, a WNBA podcast where every episode we attack our baseline knowledge of the WNBA. We're your hosts, John and Kristen Barber, and today we're back to talk about the Dallas Wings, led by potential Rookie of the Year, Paige Beckers, and everything going on around Dallas. There's a lot to discuss, but before we get into it, Kristen, how are you?
I'm amazing, actually. We had a lovely day kayaking down the river. It was beautiful outside,
Nice outside day.
so peaceful. In the city, you don't see nature very often.
Very true.
It
Very
was a
true.
lovely day.
Yeah, lovely day. And now it's a lovely time to talk about this Dallas Wings team that we got to watch this week. But before we get into that, we should introduce our special guests who are returning to the pod from last year. It's friends of the pod, Laura and Elizabeth. Laura and Elizabeth, how's it going?
Great.
It's going well.
It's going great. Jewel Lloyd just had a really good game, so that's good for
Good for the
me
brand.
personally. Yeah, so she's back.
Yeah, last year you guys came on as our Aces fans.
True.
I don't want to be an Ace fan anymore. It's too much.
No.
Sure.
Too
But
We
hard.
switched allegiances.
As we've learned, discussing the W with you over the last couple years, you're largely fan agnostic, so you were very excited, I would say, to come on and talk
Mhm.
about this Dallas Wings team.
Mhm.
And I know you have a lot to say, so I'm looking forward to hearing all that. Just off the top, if anyone would like to reach out to us, you can do so at our email, attackthebaseline@gmail.com, or connect with us on Bluesky, Instagram, TikTok at ATBPod, 5-star rating and review wherever you listen, and subscribe to YouTube and all that good stuff. But now to the main event, the Dallas Wings. I think let's start with the big news of the day.
Mm.
Dejanay Carrington traded to Minnesota. I'll let you guys start. First, instant reaction. How did you feel in the moment seeing this go down today?
I was happy. I am not surprised the Wings traded Dejanay. I am surprised she went to Minnesota, although I think it does make sense, and I'm not sure where else she would go on an expiring contract with an expiring CBA or, the new CBA
Mhm.
Mhm.
insight.
Yeah, I think she's a really good defensive player, and I think that she will do well in Minnesota's system, which is, an actual system,
Mhm.
as we have seen her do well in strong defensive systems before. I am also a little surprised because I feel like Minnesota's biggest issue or gap to me is the lack of a true big center, which
Mm.
you see being an issue when they've played Atlanta with BG or New York, not so much this season, but in the finals last year with
Yeah, yeah.
JJ. And so obviously Dejanay is a very good defensive player, but doesn't necessarily fill that hole. But I think she'll be a good backup for Bridget Carlton, play the
Or K-Mac.
three, yeah, K-Mac
Yeah.
2-3. So I think it makes sense that they picked her up.
I think it's also a good mix for her because I feel like one of the things she's sort of struggled with on the Wings, like she fit in so well in Connecticut, being that sort of 3 and D player they really needed. And I think on the Wings, they're just
They needed her to do too much
there's a
defense.
dearth of offensive
Yeah.
options, right? But
Yeah.
the Lynx have no shortage of 3-point
Yeah.
shooters.
Mhm.
Even Fee is knocking down threes, Alana Smith is knocking down threes. So I think Dejanay will do really well back in that defensive kind of driving to the basket when they
Yeah.
need her to roll, which is sort of what she's best at, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love it for Dejanay. I love it for Minnesota. And I don't think it was horrible for Dallas either.
Mhm.
I think I was
No.
just surprised in general that Minnesota made a trade because they were so quiet this whole off season, beginning of the
Yeah.
season. But I'm glad they did because I feel like they need a little bit of push just to be more confident and, that give them what they need to win the finals this year.
Mhm.
And I do totally agree that perhaps Dallas was asking Dejanay to asking of her too much on
Mhm.
in terms of offense and her defense. So if she can just focus on being super good defensively in Minnesota and freeing up Kayla McBride then to
Mhm.
focus just on shooting,
Mhm.
that'll be great.
Yeah, and I mean, we should say that if this is the first time you were hearing this news, obviously the return that Dallas gets is Diamond Miller, who was the number 2 overall pick in 2023, Carly Samuelson, who the Lynx traded their 2026 first round pick for, as well as a 2027 second round pick going to Dallas. So, for Dallas, a team that clearly is signaling we're not trying to win, we're not trying to make the playoffs, we're just going to try to maybe see what we can get out of Diamond and decide if she can be a piece moving forward. Carly is a good vet, and then an extra pick. Like they're gonna slow play, and I think there was definitely a moment leading up to this trade deadline where if Dallas was a couple wins better, that they could have ended up being buyers instead of sellers if they really
Mm-hmm.
thought that Paige could put them into a first year playoff situation. But I don't think that's going to be the case this year, and that's okay. It's okay to know who you are and try to optimally improve your lottery positioning for the 2026 draft. So,
Dallas is kind of quietly building up a pretty solid young core with like
mhm,
Paige and Isaiah James and Lee Yuru and Haley Jones and
And
now
Louisa.
Louisa, yeah, and now Diamond. So I think a lot of those players will be on contract like next year and going forward. So that
mhm,
also gives them both more cap space for bigger free agents potentially if they have a lot of cheaper contracts, and also just like gives them more to build around.
Yeah. I like the trade for Diamond. I know it's probably frustrating to have, she was hurt and then, this
mhm,
season and
mhm.
past season, we haven't seen a ton of her. So I'm excited to hopefully see more of her on
Mhm.
the wings, get her some time to play and develop more and just see
Yeah.
more from her.
Yeah, I think Dejanay also as a defender, like on the wings, we haven't seen as much of her defensive prowess as we did last year at
Yeah.
Connecticut, partly just because, the wings as a whole don't have as much defense in general.
Mhm,
But also I feel like in some ways she's sort of a very like, or can be kind of a like high risk, high reward defender. Like she goes for a lot of steals. She's very
Mhm.
aggressive on the perimeter. And so she especially thrives like last year in Connecticut with strong interior defenders who, if she goes for a steal and her person gets past her, she had AT and she had Bree Jones, and now she'll have Fee and Alana Smith. Whereas in Dallas, like if they got past her, then that there
right.
wasn't that much
Maisha
the
Hines
second.
Allen.
Uh-huh.
Very true. Very true.
Yeah.
And it's interesting to think about, Dejanay went on, she was on one of the first Stud Bud streams or one of the early Stud Bud streams when she made
Hmm.
that comment about, or she didn't make the comment, when they made the comment to Dejanay about them losing to Chicago, and then
Yeah.
Yeah.
Minnesota goes and loses to Chicago. Clearly the three of them are close, so it'll be
Hmm.
interesting to see how they play off of
Hmm.
them. I know we're not talking about Minnesota, but I am curious, like, do you both think that, I was talking to Kristen about this today, is Dejanay first off the bench, second off the bench? Like she's not going to be a starter, right?
I
No.
think probably first off the bench,
Yeah,
I
I think
guess.
I feel like for me, there's like the starters, and then there's the players off the bench that Cheryl really trusts, which right
Hmm.
now is basically just Jess Shepard and Natisha Heidemann.
Yeah.
And I think she'll be in that category. So
Yeah.
whether she's first or second or third depends on like who's coming out. But I think she'll be
Hmm.
like Jess and Natisha both get a lot of playing time, and I
Yeah.
think she'll be in that category of coming off the bench who Cheryl trusts to like go in and actually play a lot
Hmm.
versus like Diamond, who didn't get very much playing time.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And we should also mention that as a result of this move, the Wings were also required to cut Tierra McCowan, a
Mm-hmm.
player
Hmm.
who has been, a center that was there last year when we were following them, a center that was there this year, busy with Eurobasket. Um, and now she's no longer with the team. That kind of leaves them with a smaller circle of bigs, and,
Mhm.
and a bunch of guards. So they're certainly doing their thing. I know that ESPN put out a trade idea about Maisha Hines Allen being traded to Indiana for Demiris Dantas. I would highly expect Maisha Hines Allen to just stick in Dallas here. I don't expect them to make a move
Hmm.
for a big,
Mhm.
and they're just kind of
Yeah.
gonna lock it in with what they have.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, kind of that was also kind of an interesting wrinkle in today's news, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Tara, I don't know whether it's, Tiara has been struggling because we've seen her have a couple good games this season, but it seems
Yeah.
like for whatever reason, Chris
I feel like
Pickton
they
is,
never really got back into the rotation after
yeah,
Eurobasket.
has not wanted to
Mhm.
play her much. Well, it's hard with Louisa coming
Yeah.
back, and Louisa is
And they got
pretty
Lee at the same time.
reliable. Louisa seems to fit with Paige well. Lee
Mhm.
seems to
Yeah.
fit with Paige well.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Tiara did have one of our favorite moments of last season when she got ejected from, I think it was an Indiana
I
game.
don't remember, yeah.
And there was just the camera zoomed in on her going down the tunnel and she stopped and like waved goodbye. It was very funny.
Uh,
Uh,
we'll see what roads lead for Tierra McCowan, where she ends up. If somebody's going to end up picking her off of waivers, or if she clears and then just ends up on any other team. But I would expect her to. I mean, she's a vet. She's a W vet, so I expect her to land
Mhm.
somewhere and not just sort of end in the ether. So let's pull it back here and just think of like the team as a whole. Were you have they met your expectations of what you were expecting with, they draft Page, they draft Isaiah, they draft JJ Quinterly, and JJ Quinterly is a player that I would say was sort of a surprise to make a spot out of camp, even though she's been a player that has started a handful of games
Mhm.
recently too, especially this week. And now Louisa Geiselsuter. Do you feel like that young core that you mentioned has sort of made for a positive opinion about the team right now, or do you feel like they're underwhelming where people thought they were just going to be right out of the gate red hot, kind of how Indiana was a little bit this time last year, I guess.
I think the biggest sort of question for me still is the fit of Enrique with the
Yeah.
rest of the team and kind of Paige in particular. I think the new during the New York when they beat the Liberty last week, Paige and Enrique both had really good games. Enrique had a ton of
Hmm.
assists. They looked really good together, but other than that one game, I feel like we haven't really seen them flow really well
Yeah.
together. And I mean, I will say I'm personally not a huge fan of the Dallas coach. I don't think that he has very thought out offensive schemes or plans. And, I mean, we keep seeing these pictures of like late game timeouts, and all of the players just look various levels of confused or concerned or
Mhm.
shocked.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
I don't think that, I think that they could fit well together with a coach with like, better or like more offensive schemes, but I just feel like we haven't necessarily seen that. And so I'll be interested to see going forward, like, first of all, does Dallas get a new coach next year, or do they give
Yeah.
him another year?
mhm.
And whether either way, like, do they try to keep Enrique and give it another shot, or do they try to build around Page more and kind of move
Mhm.
on from Enrique,
Mhm.
who's been with Dallas for a really long time and has been a great player for Dallas? So
Mhm.
I would my personally I would hope, or I would like to see them get a chance to play together some more because I think they could
Hmm.
fit really well together, but I think we just haven't really seen it gel yet.
Yeah, I yeah, I think the same mostly. We've seen so many, guard rotations, especially with the wings. We had
Hmm.
Ty Harris at first, then she's out for the season. Paige is out with the concussion for a while. Enrique's out with her thumb.
Dejanay is out with her ribs.
Dejanay was out,
Yeah.
so they've tried so many things like, Paige as point guard, JJ as point guard, Enrique as point guard, various people playing off ball. So I think that is sort of taking a while to, as Elizabeth said, meld and come together.
Yeah.
I also hope we get another year of Enrique. I think, I'm an Enrique stan. I think Enrique gets a
Hmm.
bad rap the
Mhm.
past few years in part just because she's such a high volume shooter. But on the other hand, last year she literally had to be a high
Yeah.
volume shooter. The
Right.
Wings would have scored like 20 points, especially in the first half of the season with Satu out, had
Yeah.
Enrique
Correct.
not been taking as many shots as she was taking. And I'm sure it's also hard to then go from that situation to now you have, the rookie of the year, you have all these new people, you have a new coach coming in. What are we going to do? And so I think we just need to give it a little more time to settle in.
Hmm. Hmm.
Yeah. I am not I was very high on this Paige Enrique situation at the
Hmm.
beginning of the
You were a
year.
believer. Hmm.
And I still am. I still think it can work out. I do think the fact that Satu Sabali left made a big impact on this whole thing because Satu and Enrique had been playing together for a little bit. Satu being a bigger wing that like plays off of Enrique, they can balance each other. And now they don't have that as much.
Right.
Now it's just Paige and Enrique, two guards.
Sure.
So I think this, compared this to last year, Indiana. I don't think that's really fair. I
Mhm.
think this is more like 2 years ago, Indiana, when they got
Mhm.
Aaliyah Boston.
Sure.
And they still
Mhm.
were horrible
Yeah.
the year they got Aaliyah Boston. That was the first piece.
Mhm.
So now, next year, they can get a bigger wing that can play with Paige and Enrique. And I think that will work much better. It was weird to me still that they drafted these three guards
Mhm.
in this draft.
Mhm.
That didn't really make any sense to me. And they have been good, I think. I've seen positives in Paige, JJ Quinterly, and Isaiah James, but it just wasn't what they needed, I felt like.
Yeah. Yeah.
So they're missing that piece.
Hiring shouldn't be a hassle or a drain on your budget. Upwork is your one-stop shop to find, hire, and pay top freelance talent, saving you time and keeping costs in check, all in one place. Do you know the secret to businesses that are scaling faster than ever? They're using Upwork to tap into a diverse pool of skilled freelancers across various industries. With more than 2 decades of experience, with a simple and ambitious goal: to pioneer a better way of working. Posting a job on Upwork is easy. No cost to join. You can register, browse freelancer profiles, get help drafting a post, or even book a consultation. From there, you connect with freelancers that get you and can easily hire them to take your business to the next level. Upwork makes the entire process easier, simpler, and more affordable with industry-low fees. Visit Upwork.com right now and post your job for free. That's Upwork.com to post your job for free and connect with the top talent ready to help your business grow. That's UPWORK.com. Upwork.com.
I think there's a chance if they win the draft lottery again, they draft Lauren Betts, then we're talking, you
Yeah.
know.
Exactly.
Yeah. I feel like I've seen some people say that they don't believe that that would work for Dallas, but like that doesn't make any sense to me. They need this dominant big body, and I do
Mhm.
Yeah.
think that Lee Yuru has been above what they were hoping, and I
Yeah.
think that is awesome because she's a player that I very much enjoyed in the time that she had in LA last year, and
Mhm.
she clearly needed that change of scenery, and she gets it in Dallas, and um, she's been really really good, and is like Paige's best friend, or Paige is her best friend. And she always
Yeah.
talks about it on TikTok. Um, but yeah, they are lacking in that um, ball dominant wing when they have just a bunch of ball dominant guards.
Yeah.
Um, but again, they're just trying to figure it out. I want to talk about Paige in general because I feel like starting to turn into the player that I recognize her to be from UConn. I'm starting to see it now. Whenever I watch Dallas, she's a consistent, 20 point a game scorer. She's 4+ assists. She's getting rebounds. She's doing all the things. She's self-creating. She's helping her team. I think she's pretty much met what I was expecting, if not a little bit above, considering the struggles that you mentioned, Elizabeth, about the coaching scheme and all that business. I'm just really happy to see Paige here in the W and thriving. What do you guys have to say about her?
Yeah, I think yeah, as you said, she's doing really well. She's making shots from all over the court. She has scored in double digits, I believe, in every game she's played in. She's, breaking rookie records. She's just like Paige is just one of these unique guards who seems like she can play, like she can shoot from not in the Caitlin sense of shooting from the logo, although Paige can shoot from there, but like
Mm.
she can shoot from mid-range. At UConn, she basically played 1 through 4
Yeah. She played
at
point guard
various
the first
times.
season.
Yeah.
And I think that's just made her this very versatile player who can fit in. But yeah, I'm happy for her. She seems like she's having a good time in Dallas. You know, she has the Brooks, her and Isaiah and JJ. I think she and Enrique seem like they're friends. She and Lee Yuru, as you said, you know, they went to Six Flags together. And,
Hmm.
you know, not to compare them to Indiana, but last year, I don't know if you remember, the Fever went to Zubilation right around the All-Star break and then they went to the Indiana Zoo and then went to Zubilation and then turned the season around and all the Fever fans were like, "Oh my God, Zubilation did it." And I feel like Six Flags is that for the Wings this year. They went to Six Flags and they forced Lee Yuru on the rides she didn't want to go on because they were too scary. And now it's just, you know, now they can win all of a sudden. So,
Yeah, yeah, it's nice, and the announcer said the other night in that Fever game that even though the team isn't necessarily performing as highly as was originally expected, the team is very close, and I do think that comes across, which is a good thing, and it's interesting that when you have a coaching situation like they do, usually that sort of breeds an air of malcontent among the team. But I do feel like the team is very tight knit, and then
mhm.
it's just a matter of maintaining health and having better schemes, and they could be. I wouldn't have been shocked if they were whatever the Fever were 22 and 18. I could have seen a scenario where that happened for them this year. Not going to be the case, but um, yeah, I mean, I think the vibes are good in Dallas
Mhm.
despite the losses. So if you're a Dallas fan, you should be pretty excited, I would say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, you know, one thing we've sort of talked about it, but one thing we haven't talked about is also how, you know, Kurt Miller comes in as the new GM, who, you know, had previously been the coach of the Sparks and got fired anyways, becomes the new GM of Dallas, bringing the number one pick with him, since we all thought the Sparks were going to get the number one pick. Jokes on them.
Hmm.
Chris Koklanis is there, Nola Henry is there. You know, they have pieces that are really good that they're building, but
Hmm.
also, you know, I think a lot of the frustration this year is like, why does the roster look like this? Like, people are looking at the people the Wings have drafted over the past 10 years and been like, how did they lose all these pieces? And part of that is like, okay, well, we've just basically transitioned to an entirely new front office and coaching staff. So I think we do need to give it a
Yep.
little bit of time. Like, you know, we all want to get mad at Kurt Miller for not making good trades, but I think he's actually done a really good job with what he has been given. And, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think Dallas before this season has had a long track record of drafting or getting very good players and then letting them go,
Or
like or
not
not
developing
developing them, right? Like
them.
they had Saw too. They had Alicia Gray, they had Skylar,
Hmm.
they had Natasha
Yeah. Oh
Howard.
yeah,
Like,
Natasha Howard, who basically, like, you know, the Wings played their last game at the end of last season, and then like some very short amount of time later, Natasha Howard posted on Instagram and was basically just like, "Thank you, Dallas Wings fan. I will not be coming back. I
she
do not
she posted the thank you
thank you."
graphic
Yeah,
except
exactly.
in reverse.
And it was basically, she was like, "I don't know where I'm going, but it's not back to the Dallas Wings, so goodbye."
Yeah, and I think like, when a franchise has a history like that, like I think Chicago is another one that just like has a long history of sort of like squandering good
Mhm.
players that makes a lot of players nervous about going there.
Yeah.
And so I think that could be a challenge for them going forward in free agency. But I think you're right that Kurt, especially with the in-season trades, I think has done a very good job.
Yeah.
Like getting a first round pick for Nalissa.
Yeah.
I think Diamond Miller, it could be a good piece for them to build around. I think
Hmm.
we didn't see enough of her really on the Lynx to like know entirely how she'll do. But I mean, she was a very high draft pick. She's shown
Yeah.
really good moments.
And
So
I think, you know, not knowing anything but what I see on Twitter and during the games and things, I think Dijonay, especially with them trading Melissa, I think Dijonay would have left at the end of the season and gone
Yeah.
yeah.
elsewhere. So for Kurt to leverage that into, yeah, getting this piece of diamond, getting Carly, although she'll probably be a free agent, I would guess.
Yeah.
And then
Hmm.
getting this extra second round pick, I think is a
Hmm.
good, you
Mhm.
know, you're not going to make the playoffs and you're losing Dijonay anyway. See what you
Right.
can get for her. She wants
Mhm.
out.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, Kurt in and of himself he's been very active in trades.
Yeah.
I think
Mhm.
Mhm.
they've made the most trades so far
Mhm.
this year.
At
they've
least
been
one of.
involved. Yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
they were involved in the big trade. They got Lee Euro. They got
right. Melissa.
um
Was that Melissa?
Yeah, the big trade would be the Satu trade.
Yeah.
the
Hmm.
Satu Dijonais was part of that,
Yeah,
I
Sophie
think.
Cunningham.
Right, trading
Yeah.
for and trading away Dijonay.
Yeah.
Getting Ty
Hmm.
Yeah.
Harris.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think he's trying. I
Yeah.
think he may not have anticipated the players not vibing with Chris Koklanis. I don't know. We'll see what
Yeah.
happens with that. But I think he came in saying, like, it must have been much more of a disaster in the front office,
Hmm.
back office than we had known about.
Hmm.
So he came in saying, like, we want to make this team a fun culture that brings in free agents. And I think a lot of players respect Paige and would like to play with Paige.
Yeah.
So that obviously really contributes to that.
Mhm.
And I do think the facilities are not like very good at the moment.
Hmm.
Hmm.
They're building another facility in the process of that. So in the next couple years, that will be better. I think Kurt's trying.
Yeah, yeah. And he's active. He's somewhat active on, just rotating out whoever that end of the bench is. We've seen,
Yes.
Haley Jones joined this
Mm.
team
Hmm.
a month ago, and now she's starting games
Hmm.
and playing pretty well. I feel like
Yeah, she's been a good pickup for them.
especially this week, I was very impressed by what I saw from Haley just across the board. Grace Berger, they tried out Grace Berger a little bit. I didn't even realize that they signed her, waived her, signed her twice, and then waived her
Yeah.
again. Um, Grace Berger, of course, a player that we saw this week in game one, and then
Had a phenomenal game
hey, you could say phenomenal, yeah.
and then was immediately cut.
Yeah, yeah. And a running point in the backup unit, Grace Berger, you're making moves. You're making moves.
Hmm.
Just got to find the team that sticks. And then, active, active, wait, of course, you had to move her too because you bring in two players with this trade. They
Hmm.
needed to also waive Tierra McCown. So
Hmm.
he's manipulating this roster and moving things around. And a player that we haven't mentioned yet that they were definitely going to rely on a lot this year, Maddie Siegrist has been hurt for
Hmm.
virtually the entire season, and she was the champion of Athletes Unlimited. So there was a lot of discussion preseason about like Maddie Siegrist is probably going to be the most improved player, and
Hmm.
we hardly
Yeah.
have seen her on the court. Hoping that she returns sometime soon because she is always there on the bench. You see her a lot. She gets a lot of camera time. I
Uh-huh.
hope that we can get her on the court because she's a fun player to watch for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I believe she's supposed to be back this week. They thought she would be
There we go.
back by Friday, I think, but then
She didn't end up playing.
she didn't end up playing.
Yeah,
And
so
they pushed it
hopefully.
back a week. So hopefully soon.
I want to go back and talk about Arike and
Mm.
that mysterious end of game the other night against the Fever where she
Mm.
is
Hmm.
sat the entirety of the fourth quarter. I think at that point I checked the box. She was one of six from the floor. Didn't I mean, but she was maybe leading the team in assists or one of the top two in assists. So I was confused a good bit about why she was sitting out the end of that game. And I mentioned on Blue Sky that maybe theoretically they're considering moving her. And then today we have the Dijonay trade. So like, what did you two make out of that, or do you think that was just Coach Chris with a hook and he said no more Enrique for the rest of the night?
Yeah, I don't know. Sometimes it does just feel like Dallas is trying things. Like I think Enrique sitting out for the whole fourth quarter was odd given that it's Enrique, but I've noticed this in games. Like sometimes Azaya will play like 20 minutes a game and then the next game she won't play at all.
Mhm.
Mm,
And or
mm.
like, she'll start one game and then won't play or like
Hmm.
whatever. So they seem to be changing rotations, trying to see what works. The Valks, I think, have done a bit of this season as well. especially earlier in the season, it would be like Carla Late would play 30 minutes and score 30 points. Next game,
Mhm.
Carla Late has not played at all. And we would be like, what is she hurt? What's happening?
Yeah, it's very
You
strange.
know, so I don't know how much of it is rotations. I don't know what else to make of it other than Enrique was having an off night.
Yeah, I mean, I wonder about like nagging injuries too. I think
Yeah.
it seemed like
Mhm.
her thumb was still bothering her even after she came back. I don't, the game wasn't like, it was definitely, the game was definitely within reach at points in the fourth quarter. So it wasn't like there's no chance we can win. Let's just, rest her. And obviously all the other starters played a lot.
Hmm.
But I do wonder about that. I do also, you mentioned trading her. I mean, like I said, I would like to see her and Paige get another year together and see what they can do with hopefully
Mhm.
like a more consistent, fewer injuries, more consistent schemes.
Hmm.
But if they do think, like, if she has expressed to them that she doesn't think she'll be there next year, like she'll be a free agent at the end of the year, like
Hmm.
most people in the league. So if they do think there's a chance that she won't be back, I do think it would make sense for them to try to trade her, since obviously you can try to get something for her now, or you can let her walk away at the end of the season and get nothing.
They would core
Mhm.
her though.
Yeah, that's true. They would core her.
Probably. Hmm.
Yeah,
That's a good point.
but so I mean, I think who knows, right? I
Yeah.
think they're probably I would guess they're like putting out feelers to see if there's any interest. I'm not
Hmm.
sure, right? Like Enrique, she's a great player, she's a
Mhm.
great teammate, she's a high volume scorer, and I'm not sure she's necessarily like the missing piece for any contending team.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So because like the Lynx and the Liberty both have a lot of shooters already.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah. I mean,
so
I would say like the Sky come to mind, but they don't
Yeah.
care at this point
Yeah,
to
there's
make
no
a
re
trade.
they
Mhm.
also don't really
yeah.
have anything to trade
That's true.
unless you're trading like Camilla,
Camilla.
but that's yeah,
Yeah,
would
that's
be
interesting.
stunning. Like, there's no way. Um, yeah, yeah. There's not really a place that it seems worthwhile to try to trade for her. So
Hmm.
yeah, it's just yeah. It probably is just Occam's razor. Like the most obvious thing is she was just having a bad night, and that's why we're gonna sit her. But it still just is weird when she's your
Yeah.
first or second best player on a given night and you're not playing an entire quarter
Mhm.
of basketball. But yeah,
Especially
that's
because also we've seen Enrique have many, bad nights before, as
right.
everyone does when they play, and we've never seen her bench like this before.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
And Enrique is
Yeah.
also a player that I feel like can have like three terrible quarters and then score like 15 points in a quarter in the
mhm.
fourth quarter,
Hmm.
and can just really heat up at any given point. So I feel like she is someone that I would probably leave in for longer on an off night
Hmm.
than maybe some other players who, if they like start cold, are probably going to stay cold because she can just
Hmm.
kind of get going at any time.
Yeah, yeah. That's a good point.
Yeah. I will say we have mentioned her earlier, but I think the player that I'm most surprised following this week specifically was watching Luisa because
Mm.
I admittedly haven't watched a ton of her game, but she can really kind of do it all most
Hmm.
nights. I'm very impressed with like how quick of a trigger she has from three.
Mhm.
Her finishing is pretty good, and you mentioned earlier like she plays pretty well with Paige. This plus Lee as like your primary bigs, or if you want to bring in a more marquee like special big, or if you draft Lauren Betts, like I could see the three of them, or I guess just let's say Paige and Louisa specifically. I could see the two of them developing together to be
Mhm.
a pretty strong pairing.
Mhm.
But I know you've been a fan of Louisa. You're always saying in the group chat it's Louisa time.
It's Louisa time. Yeah. I follow someone on Twitter who early in the season, I follow a Wings fan who is just like, guys, because Louisa came late because of some overseas commitment, I think, one of the
Uh-huh.
leagues where various people were coming in late. And the whole beginning of the season, this person just kept being like, guys, it's okay. Louisa's going to come and save us. And so I was like, Louisa is going to be the best basketball player I've ever seen. You know, I feel like we're always waiting for these Europeans to come over. And then I'm like, okay, is this like a European Asia Wilson? Is this like a Melissa? Like, well, how good is this person? You know, and we can never get answers on this, of course, obviously. But I was like, Louisa's going to be amazing. And then she came over and obviously had a rough adjustment period.
Yeah.
And I was like, what is happening? Louisa was supposed to save us, but now I think she's really fitting in. She's doing well. And I was worried when they not when they traded for Lee Yuru, but when we first saw them playing together, you know, Lee came over, I think, towards the end of Eurobasket when Louisa was still gone. Then Louisa came in and wasn't playing as much. And I was like, oh no, like they've replaced Louisa with Lee Yuru. But no, they figured out how to play them both together. But yeah, Louisa's great.
I always think it's funny to see the European players come in or like come back from Eurobasket, and they're always just immediately getting in foul trouble the first couple of games because they have to like readjust to the way that the WNBA calls games. Like we watched Emma Mussman play her first game today, and every time she got called for a foul, she just sort of had this look of like, really? Like you think that's a foul? But I do think, right, we've seen like Louisa had some foul trouble early on, but definitely has adjusted, and I feel like fits in with them well now.
Yeah, she is older than I expected. She is 25.
Okay.
Sometimes just the European players are so young when they come over.
Yeah.
Right.
But she is 25, so I think that helps too. I think she is playing well with Lee. She has been great from three, much better than I would have expected her to be. So yeah, I think she's definitely a positive for the team.
Stretch big. That's a good thing to have on your squad. Okay, we have a couple more topics to touch off of Dallas, but before we get to that, is there any other Dallas topics that you guys wanted to hit or that you wanted to wrap up our discussion on that?
No, I don't think so. Yeah, I think you nailed it when you said the team is like good vibes, very fun. All their social media posts are, you know, very fun. The team seems like they like each other. There's low drama. They always seem like they have each other's backs. You know, the clip a lot of people were posting from earlier this week, last week, of Paige defending Arike in the press conference.
Oh yeah.
You know, she's a good teammate. They're all good teammates. And so I have high hopes for the team.
Yeah. Also, Maddie trying to stop Paige from crashing out on the bench.
Oh, yeah, that was funny. Yeah. Oh, and earlier in the season, you know, Dejanay being like, I've been sent Paige as punishment for how annoying I was to my vets, Alyssa Thomas, and don't want to bother. Now I have Paige as my rookie. Yeah.
That's sad. It's sad that she's gone now.
That's true. No, she's gone.
It's sad.
Well, the training wheels are up.
And Alyssa, it was going to be so fun.
It was going to be so fun.
The two of them together.
Well, I guess I'll say, are you in for the potential like Paige AZ stuff like that people are wish casting, or you kind of feel like let's not do that?
I don't think the Wings need another guard.
I
thing.
agree.
I think AZ is a great player, but I just think they have a lot of guards. They have a lot of good guards. That's clearly not their problem. And this year they drafted a ton of guards, and so far it's not going great. So like maybe try something different. And I think you're right that like I think the Paige, Lauren Betts, Louisa trio could be really good because Lauren Betts is, you know, very like dominant in the paint, but isn't a stretch big at all. And so to have the combo of like Paige who can run pick and rolls, Lauren Betts who can get a lot of rebounds and be dominant in the paint, and then Louisa who can stretch the paint, I think could work really well.
Yeah, I think if they have the first pick, I would take Lauren Betts, but you know, it just depends what happens, who's even in the draft, etc. You know, who knows who's going to declare early, who's going to declare late.
Yeah, and I could see AZ going first in the draft, like depending on who. Like I think, you know, if Seattle has LA's first round draft pick next year, I think.
Yes, and Minnesota has the Sky.
Minnesota has
Chicago. Yeah, because I could see like if Seattle got the first pick, I think it would make sense for them to draft her because they really need like 3-point shooting. So I don't think that next year's draft is going to be the same as the last 2 years of like there's a clear number one pick that any team would take regardless of what they need. I think there's a lot of really good players, and it'll kind of be based on like what the team that gets the first pick needs. But I don't think Dallas needs another guard.
Yeah. It's also so hard to say with the CBA ending and basically everyone being a free agent.
Yeah.
Dallas is actually one of the easier teams, I think, to predict
Yeah.
because they have so many people on still their rookie contracts, and so they're going to keep onto so many pieces. But some teams, it's just like they'll
knows?
have two people.
And the 2 expansion teams.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
true.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're not going to know now what teams will need come
Yeah.
the draft because they're
Correct.
going to be totally different.
Correct. Well, okay. Well, last thing I'll say about Dallas is, we've been critical about Chris Koklanis. Last thing I'll say is, why is JJ Quinterly the player that is inbounding the ball when she is probably the smallest player on the court? I just think that is a crazy thing. I saw that a lot in these games this week. I don't get it, and I mean, maybe she's just very confident in practice. I saw multiple times that it did not work, so I figured that out. Maybe write up some plays. We'll talk about that. We'll see what's going on with Chris Koklanis at the end of the year. Okay, so I'll give you two the option. Do you want to go around the league and talk about all the other things that you've enjoyed this season, or would you like to start by talking about the recent news about your Boston Sun, as they could be?
Well,
Yeah.
let's discuss our Boston Sun
Yeah.
first. Yes.
Okay.
We are very excited about
Mhm.
the potential of them moving. We've been to games at Mohegan Sun and it is a great environment, but when we drive back after the games, the line of cars waiting to get on the highway heading back to Boston is extremely long, and I just feel like every time someone should take a picture and send that to the Sun owners to say you should sell to Boston. So I think that the team will have a ton of support in Boston.
Mhm. It would be really convenient for us to get to games
Yeah.
if they moved to
Personally.
Boston.
Yeah.
So that would be really good for me personally.
I thought that the statement that the WNBA put out was really interesting, basically
Mhm.
being like, the Board of Governors needs to approve any move. And it kind of sounded like they sort of didn't want Boston to get the Sun so that Boston could pay an expansion fee later.
Yeah.
So I don't know if
Yeah.
that was just like trying, I don't know, like trying to get a better positioning, like knowing that they're gonna move this time, or actually thinking about blocking them, but
Or trying to mollify the owners, to be like, and like
Mm.
also, because I could imagine a bunch of people are like annoyed in this situation, one being the owners who want Boston to pay the expansion fee if they get a team, which is rumored to be 2033. I don't know where that came
That's
from.
crazy.
Maura Healey said, the governor of Massachusetts, Maura Healey, said in a statement that she supports the Sun moving here because she doesn't want Boston to wait until 2033 to get a
Okay,
WNBA
that's
team.
where it came from.
Okay.
I don't know if she just made that number up or if she has heard that that's when the next expansion teams are, but I think that's where people are getting the number from.
It's interesting if
Yeah.
that's real. I don't know.
Yeah, I just think it doesn't make sense.
The other cities that have bid, like Kansas City and Nashville and stuff,
Yep.
there's also rumors that like they are upset because the rumors coming from, I don't know, people online talking, whatever, are basically
Yeah.
like the league essentially was like, okay, guys, wait and you'll get your turn. And now they're kind of like, well, Boston has just circumvented this whole thing by buying a team. So like, how is that fair? So
Yeah.
the question is, how much of this is like the league is actually going to attempt to block the team moving to Boston, and how much of this is like, please, no one
Everyone
else,
is upset.
everyone's upset. Please don't do this in the
Yeah.
future. However, the team is moving to Boston. So
Yeah, I just think it makes so much sense for that. The team has to move. Okay,
Yeah.
period.
Right.
So, I think moving to Boston, it's not far. The fans already come a lot of the time.
Right.
I guess I understand other cities being upset, but then put in a bid to buy the team. I don't know.
yeah, exactly.
You can do that too, Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah.
If you want.
Get them.
Whatever. People sell teams all the time in
Yeah.
other
Yeah.
leagues.
Right.
Yeah. And the other thing is like, okay, let's say Boston is going to get a team in 2033. What's going to happen is like they're going to get a team, and then something is going to have to happen to this Connecticut team, because currently no one wants to play there. They have no facilities. No one wants to live there because you're in the middle of nowhere in Connecticut. Like, yeah, Mohegan Sun is cool and fun and I like the environment, but they're just not investing enough in the team and
in the facilities.
and none of the players want to live in the middle of nowhere in Connecticut. So you have this problem. So it's like, okay, I don't really understand why it's a better look for the team to say Boston has to wait to get a totally new team, and then we're gonna presumably disband this old team or fold them in or whatever. Like, it just doesn't seem good when we're like, okay, massive expansion in this league. However, also some teams are folding due to logistical
Right.
problems.
None of the Boston fans aren't going to come to Connecticut all the time if they have a separate Boston team.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Crazy. And like, and the only thing I've heard past the 2030 expansion is in that press conference where Kathy announced Detroit, Cleveland, Philly. She said, someone asked her, what is the plan after this? You know, are there other teams coming? And she said, basically, the only other city we're thinking about right now is Houston, but it won't be for a few years after this.
Right.
So I don't understand at all people saying 2033 in Boston. So this just makes so much sense.
Yeah, yeah. And we knew this when they made their primary, the company that they're working with, like TD Bank. They did the TD Bank hookup. I said on the pod when that happened, I was like, okay, they're probably getting ready to move to Boston. Yeah, I do think it makes sense. I hope that, you know, if they do decide to keep the name, even though we're expecting rebranding, I do hope that they retain maybe some connection to the Mohegan tribe. Maybe the Mohegan tribe is a minority owner or whatever, and they're somehow still associated with the team. But yeah, Kristen, like you said, this just was a move that needed to happen because there just wasn't the same amount of investment in this team as there has been in other teams, and they play in a smaller locale. And yeah, it was not a shocking announcement, but I guess the timing of it being 2027, they expect is pretty exciting, especially now that we have two expansions next year. We had the gap year and then 28, 29, 30. Now this will kind of fill in that 2027 gap, I would think. And I would be very excited for the two of you who get to watch Sanaya Rivers all the time.
Sanaya.
We
at
love
the
Sanaya,
Garden.
my girl.
Yes.
Exciting. She can be the best player in Boston women's basketball history. Maybe. Who knows? We'll
Well,
see.
Tina Charles will still be there. Don't worry.
Yeah,
She's
that's
not gonna
true.
retire,
Yeah.
so she'll still be
She
there.
has to break the scoring record, then she'll retire.
Exactly.
She gotta
Yeah.
wait. She gotta wait. She got a couple years ahead of her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. I'll open it up to you. Any last things before we wrap this up? Anything from around the league that you have enjoyed in the W so far? I can't believe like we're kind of almost done. It feels like there's only 15 or 16 regular season games, and then the playoffs will be here before we know it. Just how have you enjoyed your coverage of the W this year?
It's been great. Yeah.
Yeah, I think this year has been really interesting because they're like, we all knew going into the year that the Liberty and the Lynx were going to be dominant again. And the Lynx certainly have been. The Liberty have been to some extent, although they've had a lot of injuries. They've had their very stars out at different points. And the Liberty are so interesting to me because I do think when they're fully healthy, they're the best team in the league. But I think more than many other teams, they fall apart much more when like even one of their big players is out. Like we saw when JJ was out, now we're seeing when Stewie's out, although having Emma helps.
Yeah.
But so it's interesting, there's like the Lynx at the top, and then there's kind of a gap, and then there's a Liberty, and then there's a little bit of a gap, and then there's just kind of everyone else sort of like, I think, what is it, like 2 through 8 are all like within 2 games of each other or something crazy. Like the whole middle of the league is just totally like gridlocked. And then you have, Chicago and Dallas and Connecticut at the bottom. But basically everyone else is like, could be in playoff contention, could fall out of, maybe not all of them could fall out of playoff contention, but there's a lot of parity in the league this year, I feel like, which has been fun to watch, sometimes frustrating to watch, mostly fun to watch.
Yeah. We were just at the Connecticut Sun game when they beat the Golden State Valkyries. I felt very honored to
Mhm.
witness a Connecticut Sun win. That was
Yeah,
really good.
unfortunately,
Unfortunately, we were
there
there
with a
with my
friend
best friend
who was a
who
Valkyries
is a
fan.
Valks fan. So she was sitting on the other side of Elizabeth and not having such a
Yeah.
good time.
But we were
Aw.
having a good
I was having a
time.
good time. So, yeah, a lot of my, Sanaya's doing well.
Mhm.
Rakia's having a great season. Slim is having a great season.
Laura's just
Yeah.
naming players on her fantasy team.
Yeah, but they're all on my fantasy team
Yeah.
because I love them. I've
Yeah.
There
only
you
drafted people
go.
with good
Uh-huh.
vibes.
Mhm.
So I would never draft people with bad vibes to my fantasy team.
So
Mhm.
So
true.
Mhm.
I fantasy team talk. I picked up because I had Kayla Thornton on one of my
Yeah.
fantasy teams.
Yeah.
She unfortunately is out for the year
Mhm.
now, got injured. So I had to pick someone up. Okay, I picked up Sophie Cunningham. John is like,
um,
take her
I
off.
shamed her so much.
Uh,
And look,
I would never do that.
nope,
it was
no.
desperate.
We're making our stand. We are not fans of Sophie Cunningham on this podcast.
So
And
I dropped her.
yeah, Kristen's undefeated in fantasy. And I
Not
was
this week.
and I was like, why are you gonna do that? You're gonna upset the team chemistry. Just
I
you
need to
don't
win.
I know you need to win. I know you need to win, but we'll see. But yeah, I think I understand. It's all right if you to say all of your players on your fantasy team are having a stellar year. It's like those become your agenda players.
Mhm.
Like that's the
Yeah.
reason why Alicia Gray is my favorite player in the league because
hmm
I was like I'm dedicating my time in fantasy to making sure she's on every one of my teams, and now she's going to be first team all W, and that rules. And
hmm
it's good to pay attention because we know that some of our favorite players are some of the best in the league,
Mhm.
and that rules.
Yeah. We were just at the Liberty game at Barclays when the Sparks beat them. If Rakia made this
Hmm.
crazy last second, not even a
Yeah.
shot. I mean, a
She just
heave, I guess.
it up.
She was basically, I mean,
She's
she
like
was
under the
fouled and
basket.
under the basket. It kind of
Uh-huh.
trips and throws it up, and somehow it goes in. That was another good moment for me, kind of being excited. Rakia's on my fantasy team, but also I kind of like the Sparks, and so I was rooting for sort of the Sparks this game, but also rooting for
Sure.
the Liberty. And I was like, yes, go Rakia. And all the
Uh-huh.
Barclays fans were not really so happy about that. But yeah, it's just been a fun season.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm excited. Do you both have a feeling? Do you think it's Minnesota's year, or do you feel like somebody else could make the major upset?
I think it really depends on New York's health. I think if New York and Minnesota are both fully healthy, I think they'll both go back to the finals, and I think it could go either way, depending on how Emma gels with the team, how Dejanay gels with the team, whatever other moves they might make.
Mhm.
Um, and then I think, Phoenix and Atlanta both started off super hot and have cooled a little bit since then, but I do think that they're both like could make deep playoff runs.
Yeah.
But I think it's going to be Minnesota or New York.
Yeah, Seattle could get up in there too. Seattle is
Wildly inconsistent.
yeah, they can play like the best team in the league, and then you're just like, you have like 8 players who are 7 feet tall. How do you have like 5 total rebounds in this game? I
Oh,
don't
yeah.
understand.
Yeah.
It is
Um,
crazy stuff.
Mhm.
yeah, the Phoenix team has been very fun for me to watch last year I adopted the Mercury as my team, and then I
Mhm.
thought I can't do it. They've traded away Natasha Cloud. I can't support this, even though, you know, so the news of the Alyssa Thomas trade broke, and then they're like, okay, who are they going to trade? Oh, Indiana's involved. And then everybody, on Twitter is like, what if we trade Sophie? This is going to be the greatest day ever. And then, they were like, we have traded Sophie. And I was like, oh my God, we're getting Alyssa Thomas and trading Sophie. But then it came out we'd also traded Tosh. And I was like, oh
Uh,
no. It was too good to be true. Like they had to do something. But yeah,
Mhm.
Phoenix has been really fun to watch. I was joking at the beginning of the season when Nate Tibbetts said they were going to play positionless basketball. Like, yeah, you have 3 players on your roster who are good and then a bunch of unknowns. Of course, all your 3 players have to play all 5 positions, but
yeah.
it turns out actually all their unknown players are actually pretty good too.
Yeah.
So that was, that was my worst take of the season so far, dunking on Nate Tibbetts for this when he was actually right. So
Mhm.
Well,
my
spoiler
Mercury are
for us.
cooking.
Yes, we are going to be fans of the Mercury this upcoming week.
Mhm.
So
So,
exciting.
yes,
Alyssa
that is
Thomas,
exciting.
and she should be number one in the MVP conversation.
Number
Mm.
two.
Number one.
Perhaps.
Move over Nafisa Collier.
I'm looking forward to watching AT, looking forward to watching Duana, looking forward to hopefully Satu, whatever personal reasons is keeping her out. Hopefully she's back in form this week. But yeah, Kristen said it. Where that'll be our team next week. Um yeah, why don't we wrap up here? I'll give you guys anything else before we go?
No, I would say that I'm also really enjoying the Sid and TP content that we've been
Yeah.
getting recently. If anyone has not been following the recent developments with objects being thrown at the court,
The
Sid and
object, yeah.
TP have been having really good coverage of that. So, I mean, everybody, I feel like I don't have to plug cross attack the baseline because, we're already here. So people are already listening. This is the number one WNBA podcast. Number two, I would say, is Sid and TP,
Sid and
who
TP.
has been very funny. Stud Buds, of course,
Sid
really been.
Sid dressed up as the object. Correct?
Yes.
That was so funny.
I have to go back and watch that because I didn't understand in the moment. I was like, oh, she's just dressed up all green. Oh, there you go. There you go.
Did you see that Atlanta this game? They had some like charity or something that was giving out bright green shirts, which clearly had been planned, for much longer than this, but was very funny given the context.
That is
The
hilarious.
timing.
Oh.
Yeah, these are the things that you get following the W. These wacky weeks. Some wacky
Unbelievable
nights.
content.
Unbelievable content. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I think that'll do it for our episode of Attack the Baseline. Again, if you would like to reach out and send us an email, you could do so at attackthebaseline@gmail.com or connect with us on Bluesky, Instagram, TikTok at ATBPod. Subscribe to the YouTube and leave a 5-star rating and review on whatever platform it is that you listen. This was fun. This was a fun one. Thank you guys for coming back and for talking about the W. You both have so many things to say, and I appreciate it when you take so much off of our plate because we know that you can carry these conversations with
True.
as much as you have been following, which in certain days is more than Kristen and I. So I gotta say I very much appreciate it.
Yes.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, thanks
Also
for having
fun
us
as
again.
always.
I can't
Yeah.
wait to see what team we'll be fans of for the pod next year.
Yeah, who knows?
Every year you'll switch.
The rotate. I mean,
Yeah.
at some point it'll probably be, but wherever Boston is, that'll be
True.
where
Yeah,
you
That'll
go.
be
Okay, that'll if we get a Boston team, that'll be our team for real.
Well, you never know.
You never know.
That'll be my team
They
for
could
real.
have
Yeah.
bad vibes.
Yeah,
That's true.
could
They could.
what if we trade for Sophie Cunningham? Then I can't support the Boston team. So
Nope.
gosh.
Nope. We're gonna not put that into existence. So.
I don't know if Boston is a fun enough city.
That's true. It's not Miami for sure.
Yeah.
It's no Indianapolis.
Miami or Indianapolis,
Yeah.
the two cities. So
Many people are loving Indianapolis, I guess. All right. Well, thank you all for listening to this episode of Attack the Baseline. And Kristen, I am staring at the baseline. What are we gonna do?
Attack it.
Attack the Baseline. Thank you so much for listening. We'll be back next week. The Phoenix Mercury.
Life is a workout, and Smoothie King is here to help you power through. Whether you're grinding out bicep curls, or muscling the couch across the living room, crushing morning miles, or sprinting through back-to-back meetings, Smoothie King has fuel to help you maximize your workouts, own your recovery, and elevate your game. Give your body the energy, protein, and power it needs with a lineup of delicious smoothies made to help you conquer your goals. Only at Smoothie King.